Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
Yeah, and Ready Teddy Oh So Sweaty is getting all sweaty moving, I guess, this weekend. So the past couple episodes. For anybody who doesn't know, we record all the episodes in like one big chunk. Not all the episodes, but we'll do like 4 or 5 episodes in the night. And so Ted's missing out on this. Grant missed out on a few recording episodes because he was I don't know.
I was otherwise indisposed.
Oh, is that what we're saying? Okay. He was otherwise indisposed. He was OI. But if you want to be present for all the action, we have lots of ways that you can join us. We have a blog where Matt is reviewing the card pool one card at a time. He keeps up with what we do here at the pod. And so you can go to cardtalk2018.com. There's the second breakfast crew that is doing our live playthroughs on Sundays at 4 o'clock Eastern time, Eastern United States time. We have Gmail. You want to email Grant, Ted, or me, or Micah, or Matt. Anybody who wants to get a hold of us, you can just email cardtalk2018@gmail.com. And then we have a Patreon if you want to give back. You can help us cover hosting fees and swag and giveaways and prizes and all sorts of things. So, that is, patreon.com/cardtalk2018. But I am determined to get to the card today. I'm channeling my inner Ted here, Grant. I'm determined to get to the card today. So tell us what card we were talking about.
Well, I'm determined not to tell you.
Okay, great.
We're going to jump forward a little bit from our last card. We're coming from the Black Riders again. It's a 1-cost tactics event, so no doubt you can probably guess what we are discussing. Is Halfling Determination, which is action. Choose one Hobbit character that character gets +1, +2 willpower, +2 attack, +2 defense until the end of the phase.
Okay. Are you going to read the... I'll read it. I have something to do before the end, and it lies ahead, not in the Shire. I must see it through, sir, if you understand me. Sam Gamgee in the Fellowship of the Ring. Only because I sang last week's episode, like maybe people are expecting an encore, but I don't know. Yeah,
so paying with a stop.
Right, yeah. People's ears are bleeding as they're listening. Oh! So Grant, what do you think of Halfling Determination?
I think it is very good for the cost and can be very useful in certain situations. I at the moment, with all the support that Hobbits have, do I think it's a staple? No, but it is definitely worth consideration.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is a great card to put into a Hobbit deck for a couple of reasons. Number one, when we talked about the Hobbit Cloak, that went on Hobbit Heroes. This can go on any Hobbit character. You can put this card on any Hobbit character, which means you can boost Rosie Cotton to give Hobbits even more of a boost if you wanted to. I don't know why you would do that necessarily, but you could, because you're just going to toss Rosie's stats over to some other Hobbit hero. But
yeah, I
mean, there's probably corner cases that you would want to do that, as opposed to just giving the Hobbit hero the stats right then and there.
I suppose if you had ways of readying, say, for example, Rosie, and say you were committed to the quest and had to deal with an immediate attack.
Right. Well, so you can commit Rosie to the quest, and then ready her, and then you can use her ability to add to other people. So if you if you use Halfling Determination, she would commit for 4, and then you would be able to toss 4 over to wherever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's reasons to do it. It takes a little bit of setup. But the point that I'm trying to make, I guess, is that this goes on a Hobbit character, not just a Hobbit hero, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you could always throw it on, what's that new Hobbit, the Hobbit Archer.
All right. That's it. Hobbit Archer.
Yep. You could put it on the Hobbit Archer to get +4 ranged attack.
Right. Yep.
But generally speaking, I think ideal scenarios, this probably goes on Sam or Merry with a lot of readying during the combat phase.
Yeah. I always, whenever you have something like there's something in the for the dwarves that gives, like Lure of Moria, is that the one that gives
no,
bonuses
Lure of Moria is the one that readies all dwarves. You're thinking of the Song of Durin.
Song of Durin, right? And so, but it's similar, and the fact that it lasts until the end of the phase. A lot of cards last for just the attack or just for the and for questing, whatever. But the fact that this is until the end of the phase can be really nice, and I like when you have, because hobbits have additional readying beyond just the, what do I say, the regular readying that Unexpected Courage provides. So, like if you can get 3 or 4, it's very legitimate to think of getting 3 or 4 readies on a hobbit hero pretty easily with Fast Hitch. So if you can do that during a combat phase, then you have the +2 defense for however many defenses you need, and then the attack backs, you also get the defense. That's really good. So that's why I think Sam is really a good target for this, but it can really be anybody, because hobbits need the boost. They just need that extra oomph a lot of times. I mean, we went through on the the Hobbit Cloak show, we talked about all the boosts that you can give hobbits, and they kind of need it because they're supposed to be these, I don't know, these unassuming, I don't want to say weak, but they're more diminutive characters. They're not supposed to be strong and powerful. What makes them strong and powerful is all the stuff you can give them, and that's what I appreciate about this. And so, +2 willpower is great. Attack, defense, all of those are great for just 1 in tactics. I think that this card is very good to include in most Hobbit decks, just because it becomes almost a panic button. Like, oh, you have to take an undefended attack, not an undefended. You have to take an attack out of phase. I'll use Halfling Determination. I'll increase somebody's defense, and then that attack is not going to come through and kill my Hobbit, because most Hobbit heroes have 2 hit points. I mean, not all of them, but so 2 defense, that's their hit points. So like you're doubling up a Hobbit by doing this. Not very many Hobbits have 2 attack. Most of them have 1. So I don't know. That's just, I think that this is a great event to include in a Hobbit deck.
I agree, it's a great event, but with all the support Hobbits have now, do I think it's a permanent staple in a Hobbit deck? Probably not. I'd probably give it the same as I gave the Hobbit Cloak, because of the fact that there is so much support out there that, generally speaking, you don't need a panic button like this. But then again, I play multiplayer, so generally when I'm playing Hobbits, somebody else is playing combat support.
Right.
And I think that's more for...
Let's be honest, the guy who's doing combat isn't the support deck. You playing the Hobbits are the support deck.
Well, the way I look at it is you've got combat, you've got support, you've got questing.
Right.
Generally, the guy doing the combat, when I'm playing like the Hobbits, everything else is support. When I'm playing combat, everything else is support.
Right. Yeah.
But no, so from me playing a multiplayer perspective, I don't necessarily think that it's an automatic staple. Now, if I play more solo focused, then maybe my opinion would change. That's the difference between me and David.
Right.
I play more multiplayer than I do solo, where David's more of a solo player.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this card can save your bacon a lot. And there's a lot of times I feel like playing Hobbits more so than playing other traits. And maybe that's just me, I don't know, but I always feel like, the Hobbits could, I feel like I'm always like, I just need one more attack, one more willpower. Like, I know that happens a lot whenever you're playing the game, is you're like, I just need to come up with an extra attack somewhere. But I feel like Hobbits, it happens more often than not, because you can attack with 12 Hobbits and you're still only attacking for 10. It's like, how did that ever happen? So, this is where that, you're like, oh, okay, let's put in the Halfling Determination. And I think it's better than, there's a trade-off here than with Hobbit Cloak, because with Hobbit Cloak, it's permanent as long as you're
under the threat cap.
As long as you're under the threat. But here it's temporary because it's only till the end of the phase, but you're guaranteed to get it when you play it. There's no like, oh, I'm not going to get the bonus. Yeah, there's no restriction once you get it except for the Hobbit thing. So, like I feel like this card in some ways, like you said, there's a ton of different Hobbit supporting cards. So I almost feel like this card, side by side to Hobbit Cloak, may be a touch better because of all that support. Like, is it like, but nobody's lighting this card, like this card isn't going to, I'm not, spoiler alert, I'm not ranking this card a 1. This isn't any, but I think that this card is great for what you can do, like for what the Hobbits.
Oh, I agree. It is a great card. But like I said, with primarily being a multiplayer focus, generally speaking, Hobbits aren't doing combat. Mm-hmm. Hobbits are doing probably a bit more questing than, say, another deck. They're a support. Generally, the way I play Hobbits is a support role. Or at least I have been lately. So this card generally doesn't fit my style of play, but I can see the fact that it is, it has precedent. And when the Hobbits first came out, one of my first Hobbit decks ran Halfling Determination along with Sam, Merry, and Pippin, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But since the entire area the entire archetype has expanded, I find myself that this card's more in the binder than it's not. I always think of putting it in, but then there's always something else that is like, ooh, actually, no, that's better for this sort of deck style.
Right. I always feel like the competition for this card is either like Song of Hope for the extra willpower, or Ringmail for the extra defense and hit point. Maybe Sting, but that's a guarded card. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think that this is a good. It fits a great niche that Halfling. And
definitely.
The fact that you have lots of choice, like you could play it you can play it during questing, or you can play it combat. Like, I think that helps the game aspect of it.
Well, I agree. With it being an event, it has a lot of flexibility when played. Mm-hmm. But like I say, for my style of play, I generally don't like to rely on events like this as the emergency panic button, so to speak.
Right.
Because generally I've found in past with other card games that relying on, say, an event as an emergency panic button, you
You
never
just
draw
have
it.
the event, right? You have 49 of them in your deck and you still can't draw, right?
Well, it's that whole test of will scenario back
Right.
from when we first done a test of will. You have a deck full of a test of will. You never draw a test of will.
I know. Yep. It's a pain in the neck. It's a pain in the deck.
Yeah. So the artwork, David.
Yeah, I like this artwork. It's to me, it's obviously Sam. That's what and I think that's what, who the halfling that's being determined here is. I know that that's what the flavor text refers to, but even when I, without reading the flavor text, I knew that this was Sam. I think that there's some inspiration of the artwork from the movies. It looks a little Sean Astin-y, but it's different enough that it's okay. And it looks like, I don't know exactly where they are. Are they coming out of,
I think they're
Moria, and this is
yeah,
where they decided that they need to do this?
Yeah, I think this is where they're about to progress on to Lothlorien. Because as you can see, I'm guessing that river in the background is meant to be the Mirrormere,
Right.
going into obviously the Anduin.
Right, and the mountains, the slopes in the back. It looks
Yeah.
like that. You're dealing with that sort of stuff. Yeah, and I mean, so the artwork is great. And does the card match what does the card match with what it does?
I
Does this
believe
card
so,
represent
because
Halfling Determination?
well, I believe so because all throughout the entirety of Lord of the Rings, it's how the little things make a difference. How one or two, obviously, hobbits were intentionally looked upon as children or small people that wouldn't amount to much. And their determination, Sam's determination, Frodo's determination to see this quest through to the end is ultimately present in this card.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree that I say that it does actually match fairly well.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that it can give you a boost to any stat is great, and it represents
Well, it's a
like
boost to all stats.
Well,
It's
right,
not a
it
pick
is.
one.
You're right, but it's only going to be used for, for one stat, usually maybe two. Very rarely are you going to use it for all three stats in a phase.
Yeah, but
and I think that's what it's. I think that's what the halflings are, right? Don't underestimate me as a halfling. I'll be able to do this. Here's my determination. I can get it. I can get the ring to Mordor.
Yeah, I can do this, and I will be doing this. It reminds me of the line from the movie, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you.
Right.
And he physically carries Frodo up
Right.
the slopes of Mount Doom
exactly
into Orodruin.
Right.
And I think that this card actually shows very well the determination for the halflings.
Right.
Or at least a select few of halflings.
Well, should we ring this guy?
Sure.
Okay. This is the Halfling Determination. Let's see, you give out half rings, and we're going to determine what they are. This is your half ring determination. Okay. Maybe not so much. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know or is not familiar with what we do here at Card Talk, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rank a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came. So, Grant, what's your half ring determination?
2.5. Okay. That was a joke because David hates it when I give half rings.
Yeah. I'm over it for the most part, but yeah. Anyways,
because it's a very good card and the artwork's amazing and it fits so well, I'm going to give it a 2 rings.
2, way better than Hobbit Cloak, huh?
Yeah, well, like I say, this, as you pointed out, it is an emergency panic button, but the fact that you can play it when you need it, as long as obviously you've got it in your hand, it's not restricted by threat being lower than the enemy's engagement cost.
Right.
And it's got multi-stat bonus. Yes, it's better than the Hobbit Cloak. Yeah. That's the biggest factor for me. That and the artwork. Magali done a brilliant job with this.
I love Magali. I agree with you to some extent. I think that this card is better than the Hobbit Cloak a little bit, but I don't think it's that much better than the Hobbit Cloak. I mean, I think that, again, like you said, there's so many different tools and, tricks in the Hobbit toolbox that this card doesn't have to be in Hobbit decks at this point anymore. When it first came out, it had to be. There was just so many different hobbits, and this was a great way to put it onto a character as opposed to a hero. But I think that this card is slightly better than Hobbit Cloak, so I'm going to give it a 5. I'm not going to give it like a 2 or anything. I'm not going to go crazy like some of us here. But because it's half ring determination, I'll give it a 4.5 just for you, Grant. That's its half ring determination. So, anyways, everybody, thank you for joining us on today's show, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.